Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people about their work and their lives and how they hang in there. And today my guest is Jeffery Bowman. He is the founder of Legendary Bingo, which has been doing charity bingo games in West Hollywood since 1998. So 26 years, raised a ton of money for all these different charities, had a lot of fun. And I was really interested to talk to him because I admire what he does, but also I think we'll relate to each other because it's kind of similar to what I do with the MisMatch game, which is celebrating 20 years this year, although he does his twice a week. I do mine every few months, so it's a little bit different. But I was excited to hear about how it all worked. And the other cool thing he's been doing recently in the last few years, he's also a singer-songwriter, and he's been releasing songs on Spotify, and I think the other song streaming platforms as well, under the name Jeffery Leonard Bowman. So check his stuff out. It's got a cool kind of California country rock vibe. The lyrics are great. I love his voice. It's a vibe. So he's doing all these different things, and he's calling a lot of bingo and making a lot of money for people. So I was excited to talk to him. But before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that there are two ways that you can support this podcast if you enjoy it. One is to donate to my virtual tip jar, which you can find at DennisAnyone.net. I don't make much money on this. I do it because I love it. But if you want to help cover my expenses and show your appreciation, go to DennisAnyone.net. There's a virtual tip jar there. And there is also this new thing called Buy Me a Coffee. And so for, the cost of a coffee, you can say thank you and say that you enjoyed the podcast. And you know what? I've started getting little notices in my inbox when that happens, and it really makes my day. I'm not lying. I got one recently from a listener named Bill Z, and he wrote, "Thanks for being a bright light during a dark week." I think this was a little while ago. I think this might have been when Trump was shot. Or maybe when people found out, he lived. I don't know. But I appreciate that, and I appreciate the sentiment, and I like the idea of being a bright light. The other thing that you can do if you like this podcast is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows under my friends Derek and Romaine's banner, their big empire that they're building, all these cool gay shows, and for a monthly fee you get my show early and you get all these other great shows as well. So learn about that at dnrstudios.com. All right, enough of the plugs. Here now is the interview with Jeffery Bowman. Joining me now from Pasadena, California, it's Jeffery Bowman. He is the founder of Legendary Bingo here in Los Angeles, and he is also a musician with some new songs on Spotify under the name Jeffery Leonard Bowman, which I've been listening to and I'm really into. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, and thanks for listening to my songs.
They're cool. It's like this kind of California rock country vibe. I like the sound and the production and all of that stuff. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I want to talk to you about Legendary Bingo because I relate to it in a way because it's similar to the MisMatch game in that it's this game thing that we started that's kind of a fundraiser, and it just kept going.
Yeah.
It's 26 years for you.
And how many for you?
20. This year will be 20. Yeah, we're having an anniversary show. Yeah.
I think about you sometimes like that because I think when I see the ads for MisMatch game, I think, oh my God, good for you, Dennis. And we're both like basically game show hosts.
Basically game show hosts. And when you started it, did you have any idea that it would be a thing that kept going?
Not even the tiniest bit. It was, can I tell you really quick?
Talk about the origins of it. How did it start?
Yeah, I was an event coordinator at AIDS Project Los Angeles.
Right.
And we were doing all of these really like $1,000 a person events. They were, I don't know if you remember Commitment to Life.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And I was doing those.
Big stars.
Huge stars and so much money. Like all they wanted was corporate money. Honestly, without saying anything, they were choosing celebrities that they knew would bring in big corporate sponsors. So like one of the years I did it was Rosie O'Donnell and Jim Carrey. And I'm kind of like, well, how much have they really done for AIDS? Okay. I mean, maybe, whatever. But, and anyway, I just felt like people need to know about the services and what we do. And a lot of them can't afford to go to $1,000 a person event. So I convinced them to make me the community events coordinator, which I just totally made up the name. And I even had little business cards made.
I love that.
And I went out into the community, and I just was going to get smaller businesses to do these little small events because I had kind of done that. I had been the Los Angeles promotion coordinator for Orion Pictures back when they were doing Three Amigos, and they did all the Woody Allen films, all that stuff. And my job was to go out to like bars and nightclubs and get them to do nights promoting the movies. So I kind of used that as my basis. And I, happened upon a place called Stonewall Gourmet Coffee right in the center of Boys Town. I think it's a yogurt store now. And they said, why don't we do bingo? And I was kind of like, I don't really care about bingo, but okay. Right. So the first week I went in there and I just like literally set a bingo wheel on the bar. I mean, I think the capacity was like 30 or something.
Right.
And it was just, and I think I charged $1 a game or something. I don't remember. And maybe there was 10 people.
Right.
And I came back. And I'm pretty sure I was doing it every week. Came back the next week. Maybe there was 15 people and so on. And then one day somebody says, we have a drag queen that works here, a guy that does drag. You should ask him to do it with you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So the fabulous Belle Aire, who I'm sure you remember,
of course,
came in, and that's how that sort of started. And to be really honest with you, the only reason I even insinuated myself into the show, it had nothing to do with ego or anything. It had to do with, I thought, well, what if Belle Aire can't make it one week? I better have a presence in this show so that it's not so shocking. The producer's doing the show now.
Right. Like that. It was smart. It makes sense. And then you could rotate drag queens depending on their schedules. And
well, that's what ended up, happening. And where I got Bingo Boy, because that's what I go by and that's the name of my company, is there was an ad that was on the counter at Stonewall, and it was this little boy, and he had his chest puffed out and he was in a bathing suit, and it sounds really like oops now, but I used him and I did Bingo Builds Better Bodies because I thought I'll make fun of the West Hollywood, gym thing.
Right.
And the LA Weekly decided to sponsor us, and they made all these t-shirts with that on there. I said, I don't own that picture of that little boy.
Yeah.
So I cut off his head and I put a picture of me when I was 5 years old onto the body, and everybody said, oh, is that you? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, Bingo Boy. So that's how
it stuck.
Well, and it's better because, when I'm doing bingo with drag queens and stuff, it's like, and here's Portia, hey, and Jeffrey, so blah, blah, blah. And Bingo Boy has more of a...
It's a little show busier. I like that.
A little show busier, yeah.
Do you remember going out and buying the cage and I guess I need to get cards? Do you remember buying the stuff?
I love that you asked me that because I don't remember where I got the first cage. I think there was an actual bingo store in Glendale or Burbank.
It sounds like something that would be in Glendale or Burbank.
Exactly. And there used to be there used to be a place called Bingo Novelty World, where I bought all the stuff too, the daubers and stuff. But the cards, somebody who knew somebody had an uncle whose his bingo was shut down by the IRS or whatever. And I used to drive to Whittier and meet him in the parking lot of a liquor store, and he'd open his trunk, and that's how I got my bingo cards original.
It was like a drug deal. It was it was a little bit shady, which I think is the way you want to do it.
And I went all the way to
Whittier. Yeah. When did you realize, this is a thing? This has legs.
Really, not far into it. After a couple of months, it just started all of a sudden there was 20 and then there was 30 and then there was people literally out the door on their cars and sitting on the sidewalk playing bingo. And then I think the big twist came when Belle Aire did a really small role in a movie, and the movie also had Jean Smart in it. And I don't know how she did it, but she said, Jean Smart will come and be like a celebrity ball caller. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Our very first guest was Jean Smart.
Wow.
Pictures of her, and she's sitting on this stool, and she's got a sandwich in her hand, and she just looks like she's in her living room, and people have come over to play this game. And I thought, I love the feel of this, and I always wanted to feel like this. And 26 years later, even though now we're a little more razzle-dazzle, that's still the same feel. When the celebrities come, when Emma Stone calls bingo or whatever, it's not, they don't get all dressed up and all. They're like, hey, what's going on? All right, everybody be 12. I always want to keep that casual sort of thing going.
And Jean Smart was the first. Deborah Vance herself.
I know.
Talk to me about some of the celebs you've had. You said Emma Stone. I wrote down a few names. Let's see. Jennifer Coolidge, Sean Hayes, Allison Janney. Who are some of your more memorable ones that you think of or unlikely ones?
Oh my gosh. Ed Asner.
Ed Asner, Lou Grant came in and called bingo. That's amazing.
When they said, the charity said we have Ed Asner, I'm like, why would Ed Asner want to come and do this? And he showed up, and are we allowed to cuss on this?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, that fucker was one of the most incredible people I've ever met. He sits down, I want to order dinner. And he's like, we had a steak and baked potato and, whatever. And then
he turned it into like Musso and Frank's for one night.
Yeah, it was like, he's got the fork in one hand, the knife in the other, doing that thing. And at one point he goes, I don't have a cigarette. And that you could smoke on the patio then, but not inside. And I used to smoke back then too. And he goes, why don't you come with me? So I went out, and I remember standing there having a cigarette with him and thinking to myself, I'm having a cigarette with Lou Grant. This is amazing. Crazy. And he was great. We just had Ed Begley Jr.
Fantastic.
I know. And I was able to say to him, oh my God, the scene in She-Devil with you and Meryl Streep in the bedroom, and you pull her off the bed tell me that was improvised. And he's like, yeah, it was totally improvised. I was like, yes. So one of the things is I've been able to have semi-intimate conversations with celebrities that I grew up watching on TV or I've seen in movies. This week, we've got a mini reunion from the movie Carrie with Nancy Allen and William Catt. And I'm like, I know.
Jackie Beat needs to know about that because that's her favorite movie.
No.
I'm not at all surprised. Yeah.
They already said Jackie's coming.
Okay.
But, I just listened to your one you did with Glenn and with Drew about movies and stuff. And I'm like, some of the things, like Lesley Ann Warren and I sat in the back room at Hamburger Mary's, and she told me all about the ad-libbed lines in Victor Victoria, like when she was in the bed with James Garner, and she's like, don't let it get you if you pawn the expression down and all that. When she put the chocolate in her mouth and then she spits it out and says, it's so off. She said, I had another line, and I realized I put the chocolate in my mouth. I realized I need to get rid of this. So I spit it out, and she said that line. And she also claims that the line, lock the door, was her line too. So anyway, Lily Tomlin comes all the time. It's Paula Abdul came recently.
I'm having a Paula Abdul renaissance, which my listeners will know about that. Yes. I went to see her show with the new kids because when I came to LA, that's who you wanted to be if you were a dancing person. You wanted to be a Paula Abdul dancer. And she's still doing it. I mean, for a while she couldn't do stuff, and now she's crushing it. So, yeah. She's the artist of my month in my jukebox, too, by the way. So. Well,
she was sitting, like, right in the front. I looked down from upstairs. I'm like, you guys, I can't do a show with Paula Abdul, like, almost sitting on my lap. I can't do it. You guys, I can't do it. I'll be too nervous.
Was she just there as a player? She wasn't there as a guest?
As a guest, yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to her, and then I'll feel better. So I went down, and I said, hi, Paula. I'm the producer and co-host of the show. And she stood up. And she's so little, like even with heels that were giant heels, she still was, up to my nose or whatever. And I just happened to have had this memory of something that happened like back in the 90s where I saw her in this restaurant. It was that simple. I saw you sitting on the patio at Plaza de Oro in Encino. And she was like, oh, I love Plaza de Oro. She was maybe a foot away from me, and she's holding my hands the whole time. And we're right on the stage. The show hasn't started yet. And we're having this like intense conversation, and back and forth. And I finally realized like the show needs to start. So I said, Paula, I'm so sorry. I have to start the show. And she goes, oh, no problem. And she kissed me on the mouth. And I was like, shh. And I had to do the show. But So long story short, I have so many good memories from all the people that all the celebrities that we have coming to me are these wonderful, generous people that we get to meet in this, again, casual sort of thing. Like Molly Shannon, when if you're going to ask who is my favorite guest ever, I will always say Molly Shannon, because she was so wonderful and generous. And we use, the callback for G50 is I'm 50 years old,
right?
So I said, can you do this little bit? And I had the drag queen say the callback, and then she looks at the drag queen, she goes, let me show you how it's done. And she went in 100%, and she was kicking, and she ran around the restaurant. She was like, I'm 50. And it's on YouTube. It is one of the most amazing things. Like, and Richard Simmons came one time and led the entire place in a workout. So
there you go. Was he a guest, or was he just a regular player, or was he a celebrity caller?
Willam, Belle Aire,
yeah.
I'm sure you know. He was the bingo hostess for that night, and he took classes with Richard. And he came to me and he said, Richard said he'd come to bingo and he'd lead everybody. I'm like, you're lying. There's no way. And I didn't tell anybody because I was like, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And he got up there and he had the entire crowd stood up and they all did the stupid workout.
Yeah.
And it was magic. It was magic.
The dolphin shorts, he had to have them, surely.
He was definitely wearing shorts.
Yeah.
I don't know that I used to work for Hollywood Squares, and he was on, and I don't think I've ever seen him in long pants.
No. Yeah. It's his brand.
Yeah.
You've been at Hamburger Mary's for quite a while in terms of the official LA one, right? How long have you been at Hamburger Mary's?
Over 21 years.
Wow. And that's sort of been your home.
That's like, yeah.
And how many times do you do it a week?
Since after COVID, we do it every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 7. But before COVID, we were up to 5 shows a week. And when we came back, I was like, I'm getting to a certain age where, I don't know about you, but I'm like, this is enough.
Now, at your events, there are traditions that are just unique to your event. Like when people pelter, describe what that is. And people are throwing their papers at people.
Yeah. And everything that we do has an organic beginning. I've never done anything that was just like, it always comes from pelt them.
Pelt them. Yeah.
All the way back. Well, it used to be pelt him or her.
Right.
But then it started them because we don't want to tell
Sure.
anybody what
Yeah.
Right? In 26 years, I've had to really learn some stuff. I'm like this old man and they're like, oh, you can't say that anymore. I've had to get rid of callbacks that people have.
What are some of the callbacks that have had to be left into the past?
B14, it's the pedophile B. And it started with Michael Jackson. Then it became Jared from Subway. And it became, who was that coach? Sandusky.
Yes.
If you want to play on Pete Sandusky's team, you must be 14.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last one. And then Michael Jackson died. The only reason we stopped Michael Jackson is because he died.
Sure.
And then anyway, so we, moved it along.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, I was like,
maybe not so much. Yeah.
We don't paddle anymore either. We don't. Used to be, if you called a false bingo, you came up and we whacked you with a leather strap. That sister erotica of the Sisters of Visual Indulgence gave me. And so pelt them I noticed that when somebody would win, nobody really was happy for them. So I finally said one night, if you're so unhappy about it, just hit them with your bingo card. And that's how that started.
So they started wadding up their bingo cards and throwing the thing. Yeah. And the person runs around like, with MisMatch game, we have these cards. And one time we did a Bearquake show. It wasn't at the center. It was a different organization. They hired us to do it at Bearquake. And in the middle of the game, somebody just shouted out an amount to bid on one of the cards to take home. Just one of the random people in the audience. And I was like, all right, we'll have an auction. And then that became a thing. And now we do it every show, and it raises all this extra money auctioning off the cards. But it's an organic thing.
Yeah, I came to see a few years back, and I love that part of it.
It wasn't our idea. Somebody just started shouting out amounts one time, and I was like, okay, I guess we'll have an auction. Yeah, so it's those things that evolve that make those things fun. I never thought MisMatch game would last this long, and I cherish it. I love it. I won't give I'm not going to give it up. How do you feel about bingo? Are you ever like over it? I feel like where I'm at right now in my life, I like it. I need it. It gives me something to do. And sometimes you do a thing thinking it'll lead to the other thing. And then you realize, oh no, it's just the thing. It's just the thing. So I'm going to love the thing.
Yeah. You and I are so much alike.
Yeah.
I have had over the years countless people. You should have a reality show. You should, be hosting a game show, whatever. And the last one, this was before COVID, was Dan Bukatinsky. I'm sure you know who he is. He used to come. He's been the guest a few times, but we had a scandal night one night and he was there and all that, and all the scandal people.
Yeah.
And he was sitting in the audience one night and I don't know, it was the middle of the show and I left the stage for a minute and he grabbed me and he hugged me. He goes, this needs to be a game show. So he, Lisa Kudrow, and I, and these other people decided we're going to do a drag queen bingo game show. So we did this whole development thing, months and months of meetings, and they bring in a game. Sony buys it, and then the CW was going to air it, and then COVID hit. So there goes that. So what I guess I'm saying the same thing. For me, I never did this as a, well, what if, but they kept coming at me, and I kept saying yes. And now I'm at the point, if anybody dares to walk up to me and say, this would be a good show, I will throw them out, because all of my experiences in any sort of development have been horrible. They've been heartbreaking,
right?
And you spend so much time and then in the end, AMC buys another fucked up family show instead of your show. So, but to really answer your question, I said to the owner of Hamburger Mary's recently, there's going to come a time when I'm not going to want to do this anymore. And the problem is this, Dennis, and I think I don't care what you say, the same problem you're going to have is that without you, it's not going to be the same, because not just your hosting, because it's what you do behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
People have no idea what my job when I'm up there is to make this look fucking easy.
Yeah.
The audience shouldn't be like, oh boy, that would have put that together. It should just be me and the drag queen, and we're Regis and Kelly, and Kathy. And we're, part of it is that we have to have that. I've done it alone before. It's great. Drag queen can do it alone. It's great. There's something about that combination of the male and the drag queen host together. I give it that, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, it evens it out. Like it didn't work with Ryan Seacrest and Kelly because they were both like, woo, like that, in my opinion. Okay?
Interesting.
So
yeah.
I don't know that I'm willing to ever say, okay, Hamburger Mary's, I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to have something, because no one will I'll still have to do the behind the scenes stuff, but I know you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Also, I pulled a Tyler Perry and put my name in the title, about 15 years ago. So, and it's netted me tens of dollars. No, anyway.
Oh my God.
How much money have you raised for different charities?
At this point, it's over $9 million.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, that's
incredible.
That's like literally one bingo card at a time. So
but it's incredible when you think about it. When you step back, with MisMatch, we probably raised like $230,000, maybe $240 at this point.
Well, we have. I'm counting in not just the weekly ones. We did Stonewall. We moved over to Dupars. Or I don't know if you remember when we were there. We were at Dupars for a while, and that was like, I feel like 2 or 3 years, and then they went out of business. And then we just kind of traveled around. And then I just drove up and down Santa Monica Boulevard, and I thought, we're really super famous at this point. We were best of in the LA Weekly and Los Angeles Magazine. And other places were like, no thanks. And Hamburger Mary's made me ask them 3 times. Like Jesus and that other guy, 3 times, with the guy that pretended he didn't know Jesus. You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
There's something about that he denied Jesus 3 times, and that's how Jesus got busted.
Oh, okay. All right.
Everyone, my grandfather was a Baptist minister, so I apologize.
Right.
But 3 times. And the third time they said, if you go to City Hall and you get them to say yes, we'll do it. And so as always, excuse me, Hamburger Marys, I have had to do everything myself. It has been me from the very beginning doing all the work that makes that happen. They just give me the space.
Yeah. Now, do you take a salary for doing it, for producing it?
When we do private parties, we do a fee. So, and I'll be really honest with you at this point, we charge a lot of money because we do a lot of corporate gigs. We do a lot of country clubs. You know, we just did this really super rich old people's place called the Varial in the Valley, which, you know, apartments for them cost $10,000 for 1 bedroom. So we do a lot of that. When it comes to Hamburger Marys, we get a small percentage of what comes in. And if there is a night when the charity does not do well, I will give my percentage. I will always pay the drag queen.
Right.
Okay. But I never expect them to take any loss. So there have been many nights where I've just said, you guys take all the money. There's been nights when I paid the drag queen out of my pocket. I'm not trying to sound altruistic.
Right. No, but I know that drill. Like you cover your expenses, you take a little or whatever. Like I get a directing fee sometimes for the MisMatch game, but it hasn't been, a windfall or anything. But
no, I mean, it combining everything and all the events that we do, I am comfortable. You know, I make enough that this is my only job, but that is because I took and I built on top and built on top. And, you know, during COVID, our friend Devin Green and I created virtual drag queen, and we ended up doing over 500 events, and we still do them in June in Pride Month. We're talking international, we're talking all over, and I give 100% thanks to Devin and Ned because they came up with, I picked the right person because they came up with all of this amazing stuff. I'm sure you've seen, you know, they
the razzle dazzle and
they can make things fly in front of her and behind her and all that stuff. So I was truly blessed with that.
Your legendary bingo, Hamburger Marys, has been the backdrop of several reality show scenarios. What is that like when you do that? Because I'm sure it's great exposure. I'm sure it's kind of fun and glamorous, but I bet a lot goes into it. You're making a face like it's not that fun.
It's not.
It's a pain in the ass.
It's such a pain. Anytime I've ever agreed to do it, I have always thought, why do I keep saying yes? Why do I keep saying now? Whenever they've been at Hamburger Marys, it has been a shit show.
Like the Shaws of Sunset, Real Housewives.
Orange County and, Beverly Hills, me and Roxy hosted a birthday party on a yacht. Right. So, I mean, who am I to complain? I've got this great life where all of our private party clientele are millionaires and billionaires, and they treat us like we're celebrities. And so I have no complaints. But when it comes to them coming into Hamburger Marys, they always lie. I'm sorry, but they always say, we'll have one little camera. I mean, we're probably just going to use someone's phone. And they show up with 10, 20 people. They're taking the lighting down. They're doing, and I tell them, you can't interrupt the show. This is a public event, and all you can do is film your stuff and, like that. And if you want to do one on your own, then we do one on your own. So was it Millionaire Matchmaker? They came during the day. And I said, are you going to pretend it's night? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why would there be drag queen bingo during the day? And Frank Marino, he was the person they were finding the millionaire for, I guess. Why would he just wander into this bar, dressed as a guy, by the way, and then, hey, it's drag queen bingo. Let's do, so some of the scenarios have been so ridiculous, and honest to God, and I hope this means they never ask me to do another one. They're never real. Yeah. Ever. They're never. Not once. Even me greeting them at the door, we took that 4 times,
Now, has it helped you to have that exposure? Does it make people want to come to where the Orange County people played bingo or whatever? Does it get more butts in the door?
I would say that if you look at it, and you'll understand this as a producer, if you look at it as a cumulative thing, not as did that one show.
Right.
more people in the door? Or were we already so well known that they went, oh, look, Bingo from Immigrant Marys is on The Real Housewives or whatever.
Yeah.
It's cumulative to the point where, if I could give one example, for our 25th year anniversary, as usual, I said, I'm going to blast this place out. I do it every 5 years. Every 5 years. I did the 10, the 15, the 20. I always had like giant groups of really fun celebrities. And this year, I had this idea to ask Seth Rogan because I knew he had a charity.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of his mother or father is suffering from Alzheimer's. And he said yes. And I had this imagination of, well, it's going to be Seth Rogen and friends. And I'm thinking, it's going to get Charlize Theron and James Franco and,
all the big stars.
All the big stars. Instead, he brought all of these influencers that I had never heard of before.
Oh, wow.
And I was kind of like, okay. Now, it was still him and his wife, and they were wonderful. And we got all the influencers up. We want to know something? The most uptick I've ever seen was from that night because of those influencers.
Yeah.
That's what matters right now. And I hate that, but it matters that the influencers that have all these followers are like, hey, I'm here at Hamburger Mary's for Drag Queen Bingo. I saw a huge uptick in our, capacity, whatever you call it. What's wrong with me? How many people were there?
Right on.
So that's a different thing now than it used to be.
Now, part of what I read was that you started this as you wanted a way that people that weren't rich can be part of charity and can be part of activism. Because back in the day of those big AIDS benefits, you had to buy $1,000 table or whatever. And this was something people could do and they can feel. How much does it cost to go to it and get a bingo card?
It's a $20. That's it. It's been that way since the beginning.
Since the beginning. Yeah.
Because the fact too, in reality, it's a suggested donation of $20. That's how we keep it legal. We have had over the years several times, all of a sudden they're like, City West Hollywood wants to shut you down. And I have to, I'm the Norma Ray of Drag Queen Bingo. And I'm like, no, you are not. This is just entertainment and we don't give money and la, la, la. So that's one of the reasons it's always the same. But if somebody walked up and they said, oh, I want to play, but I don't want to pay, we have to let them play. And it very rarely happens because most people are there to support the charity.
Of course. And a smart thing that you did is every time it's different charities. So people are able to bring new audiences and all kinds of organizations have been able to benefit. Has there been an organization that just had heavy hitters that showed up and where you're like, wow, these are really rich people?
Where they can put their money to use, I suppose, would be we do live auctions.
I see.
Kind of like your cards.
Yeah.
We do live auctions, and we've had people that wanted to support this charity so much. There was a basket. I always use this as an example. A basket of dog items. Maybe it was worth at the most maybe $300. And I had people, they were bidding. It got up to like $1,000. $1,200. And I finally went, okay, stop, come up here. I said, write down your top bid. You write down your top bid. So it's called a reverse auction, I think, whatever.
Right.
And the person who won, they said $1,500 for a $300 thing. And it was like, what's great, the audience loves that stuff.
Of course.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah.
But I will just say, without making the answer too long, yes, there are charities that have really, really rich supporters. In addition to what you said about how I wanted it to be affordable for people, what I also have always been very interested in is getting a group of people that they're not the same. They're everything in one room. They're, young, old, straight, gay, every color, every gender, whatever. And to this day, that is what I see. I go out there and I'm like, this is so great. People bring their grandmothers. People bring their kids. Our show is never too dirty.
Right.
We might throw the F-bomb around every once in a while, but it is, to me, we have done bingo at American Legion Hall, the Lions Club. And I'm just going to say that I'm pretty sure that most of the people that were in those places were of a certain political place.
Sure. More conservative.
And I look at that and I think this is great because the next time an LGBTQ thing comes up, maybe they will say, hey, you know what? Those guys were great. I mean, I'm not trying to give us too much credit for anything, but I do think that.
Yeah, of course. Meeting people and getting to know people, it changes hearts and minds. Yeah. I was a caller at least once, and I believe it was my friend Robert who invited me with his charity, but I remember calling with Willam, and I didn't know Willam very well. And MisMatch had been going a little while, not a long time, but Willam was cracking me up.
It's crazy.
And Willam said, you know, if you ever need somebody for MisMatch, I can do Jessica Simpson. And sure enough, the next time we did it, somebody dropped out and I just reached out. And I didn't know Willam super well, but I knew that he made me laugh my head off doing bingo. And I knew he was quick. So he did Jessica Simpson and then has been doing it ever since and did it on Drag Race. And that all came out of Legendary Bingo. So
I saw, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. I just, little something. I met Willam because I put an ad in, like Craigslist or something. At a certain point, I wanted more bingo hostesses.
Yeah.
And he answered it. And he had already come as a guest because he played this murderous trans person on Nip Tuck.
Right.
Cherry something. And he said, hi, you might remember me, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I got him as a bingo hostess. And one of the first events we ever did, we did at a movie studio. We do a lot of stuff at Paramount and MJ, all these places. And in the middle of the show, he started hopping up and down and he said something like, look, my balls came out of my shorts. And I was so embarrassed. Like I wasn't used to that kind of thing. And I said to him like later on, I go, we do corporate gigs. Let's not do that. Corporate gigs, they have HR departments and all of that. But he constantly, every time I worked with him, he constantly surprised me. And I am like, his success is so well earned. That guy is, I know, you know, Trixie Mattel, I will include in this too. The hardest working person. I'm not even going to say drag queen, the hardest working people. Right.
And Willam at the and MisMatch game, and then he would come and do different gigs that I loved, like nothing gigs. Like he would show up, and one time he drove to Fresno to judge the home video gong show that I was doing up there. So I'm thrilled. I hope he's richer than God, and I think his comedy is fearless and like just slays.
Well, he's been able to change. He's been able to change. With, you know, he does so much stuff, less live stuff now and more online stuff, which I'm sure he's a very smart business person. And that I give him credit for that because 26 years of doing Legendary Bingo, I basically the show is pretty much the same, but you have to learn new things. You have to learn new ways. There was no Facebook or Instagram or Twitter when I started, you know, and I mean, so all of the stuff I had to learn, and people still say, I don't know shit about that stuff.
And they're still like, well, you got to get on TikTok. And I'm like, I'm going to blow my brains out. I'm going to blow my brains out.
Literally, I want you to, when you blow your brains out, I want to be standing next to you. I want you to hit me too. Because I know. As like, oh God, we share so many things in common. It's crazy. Yeah. Did the success of Drag Race and how drag has become so much more mainstream, did you feel that at Bingo? Were there reverberations there with more randos coming in just because they love drag queens? I'm going to say yes, but I didn't really notice it.
Right.
There's been no. Maybe after Willam was on Drag Race and then he was still hosting Bingo because he still did it he was after Belle Aire left, he was like my longest term.
Yeah.
He was so proud of that. He was like, I've been with you for 12 years. And I was always so like, God, you're huge right now and you're still doing this. That's really great. And eventually he had to stop because he was traveling and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, as far as what your point was, randos, fans or whatever, I would say that I think people's view of drag is RuPaul has changed the entire thing.
I think about that sometimes, and it's absolutely stunning to me, like what that show and RuPaul has done in the world. Like I remember when Logo was starting out, and I was a writer and doing things, and they were looking for pitches, and their thing was no drag. Like that was the thing that they didn't want. It was thought of as it was thought of as, I don't know, it was looked down on in some circles, and now they're like magic people. And there's a gazillion of them making a great living. I think it's fantastic.
Well, and there is an offshoot to that, an unfortunate offshoot to that, is that people, I've seen a lot of this, a lot of fans and all that, they are taking ownership of them, and they're not respecting the person is also a human being. And it's like, take my picture, here's my picture. I've seen it where I've had to tell people like, okay, no more. Okay. They think because I'm a fan, I'm sure it's the same, it's a celebrity thing.
Yeah.
But drag queens now are seeing that as celebrities, that fans can be demanding. And if you don't give them what they want, then they shoot you down online. And
it's a thing.
It is. And that I don't appreciate. That's what the offshoots of Drag Race that I don't appreciate. But, and the other part is this, I'm just going to be honest and say, it bothers me. There's a lot of really, really, really talented drag queens out there who will never make really big money because they weren't on Drag Race, because people are hiring people that were, that's like a big thing now. Was you one episode and your quote goes through the roof.
I'm sure.
And the other drag queens that I know that have never been on there, either tried or had no interest in it, they deserve that same stuff.
I agree. I think that's true. With MisMatch Game, we give away show tickets sometimes to other shows with the auctions. I hated typing those certificates. I was like, I hate this part of the job. Other things I like, the questions, the whatever. What's the part of this that you're like, I hate this part?
Driving from Pasadena.
I had a feeling when you said you were in Pasadena, I was like, oh shit, he makes that drive 2 or 3 times a week or more? Yeah. All right.
Especially if I have a Thursday, like this week I had a Thursday private party in Woodland Hills. So I did Pasadena, West Hollywood Tuesday, Pasadena to West Hollywood Wednesday, and then Pasadena to Woodland Hills at rush hour. And then Saturday I had to drive to Laguna for a family thing. So I've learned, you'll appreciate this, to love podcasts. I never listened to podcasts. Yeah. And then my sister started saying, you should really listen to this one and that one. And now before I get in my car, I get it all queued up. That's all the way. You were my all the way to Woodland Hills.
Wow.
And what bothers me is I want to listen to part 2 of the movie thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going through Spotify and I can't find it. I'm like, why?
It's there. It should be somewhere. I know. It's weird that it's not in sequence.
It was.
Here's something I'm dying to know. I love dauber. I love a dauber. I love that feeling of daubing. It makes me very happy. How often do you have to get new daubers? Like, how does that work?
Like now would be a really good time.
Your daubers are on their last legs.
They're so bad.
Yeah.
This
is like the magic markers for me, but your daubers are more fun.
Well, I keep pristine supply for my private parties.
Oh, of course.
I'm going to show up at some place and it'd be like this. It's all like baked on the outside and the caps. So what happens is when we lose the caps on the pristine ones, they go into the hamburger Mary box. But because like tomorrow night, we are already sold out. We have 200 people, capacity tomorrow night. And I remember last week, this girl who likes to come and help me, she said she counted them for some reason. She goes, well, I counted $164. So I put more in, but now my backup supply is gone. So I would say they go bad a lot quicker than I get rid of them.
Interesting. You hang on to them. Where do you get them from? Is it an Amazon thing?
No. I have I don't go to Whittier in the, trunk anymore.
Right.
I go to a place called AV Bingo in, I don't remember where they are, like Lancaster, some weird thing, but they ship them to me. So
there you go.
I get the daubers from them and I get the bingo cards from them.
You're all about it. You've started doing something else wonderful in the last, couple years, writing and recording music.
You're out there on the run. Really such a shame when no one sees you and nobody knows your name. Living in the shadows, afraid of the light, hiding from the unknown, only coming out at night. you're far away. Hold on a little longer. I'm waiting for that day. I'm waiting for that day.
So how did that come about? Have you always wanted to do that?
I would say yes, but at the same time, I've always had to have a creative outlet.
Right.
I've done photography and I've done art things. I've had, and I always pursue it. Like I had stuff in an art show, or I sold stuff, art that I did. And I've always done okay with it. Everyone's always liked it. The story about the music is interesting in the sense that, okay, so one morning I'm reading the LA Times and I read Linda Lovelace's obituary.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so weird. It says that she never really wanted to do porn and she became an anti-porn crusader. I didn't know that. I knew who she was. I heard of the movie. So it's Deep Throat, in case people don't know that. She was in Deep Throat. And so I thought that would make like really interesting script. So I don't know why I decided that. And then one day in the shower, I was like, a musical. It should be a musical because it's so sad.
Right.
Like Harry Reams, who starred with her in Deep Throat, was this kooky guy. And Deep Throat is actually supposed to be funny, So I was like, we can have like funny stuff, funny numbers. So I started just writing stuff. And this is where, you get to the name dropping stuff. So I happened to be friends with Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's.
Sure. Yeah.
And she said she was interested, and we did some work on it. And then she decided to move to Costa Rica to run a restaurant with her brother. And she said, I'm going to ask Charlotte Caffey, if she wants. And Charlotte wrote most of the hits, the Go-Go's hits. So Charlotte said yes. She came in, and she and I and another person started working on it. And we worked on it for a long time. And I won't go into the terrible stories about what happened with that. But
you mounted it. I remember it ran, right?
It ran, and it won 3 LA Weekly Awards. So, and then I decided, why don't I write some songs for me? And I think by then I was already taking voice lessons at the Silver Lake Conservatory. And so I wrote the first song for me, whatever. I wrote a couple of them. Then I met this guy who was he was not well known in any way. He was a producer, and we did it all out of his apartment. But we recorded the songs, and I did some performances. I did one night at Rudolfo's, if you remember Rudolfo's.
Yeah.
I did a show at Rudolfo's, and I invited 50 people, friends and family. This little room, had a full band, and it went really well, and it was great. It was like it
felt really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt really good. It felt very natural. And then bingo got in the way. I mean, life got in the way. Jobs got in. And I just like let it go because I needed money. I needed to make money. And this, was costing me money. All through the years, I have every once in a while thought of, I should bring these songs back out. Or, at one point I sent them to Devin and Ned because, Ned was a music producer.
Right.
And everybody that I played them for, like, God, these are really good. And I was like, really? You like them? And finally, this last year, it was a year ago, that I said, I am not leaving this planet until I put these songs out, meaning actually on streaming services. Yeah. So I found a guy on Craigslist, me and Craigslist, and he's this amazing music producer who was really big back in like 70s, 80s, and 90s, and worked with Smokey Robinson and Gio Vanelli and all these people. And this guy is in this little one-room apartment in the Valley with the most amazing setup. And he is, in my opinion, he is brilliant. His name's Mitchell Delavy, and he just knows exactly, like, we just got along so well. All the musicians that you hear on my songs are people that have been in the industry for years. They're all these great people that, played with all of and now they are like the this session musicians. How did I get so lucky? How did these people, like, why would they be interested in my music? This one guy, David Morgan, has written the music to some of them. Sometimes I write the music, sometimes I don't. And he's got this voice that's like this gravelly, like it's so great, you know. When he sings my songs, I'm always like, well, you should be singing my song. This is not me. But so that's what happened. And once I got, I think 3 songs done, and meaning you have to go to a master mix and then they make a WAV file. That's the thing. That's the only way you can get on the streaming services.
Right.
Did all the research, you know, already I know how to do that stuff for my other business. And got it going. And now I have 5 songs on Spotify, and it's one thing to like do all of that and then have the songs post. And it's another thing to have people come to you and say the kind of things people are saying to me. I'm not acting. This is not acting. I am overwhelmed with the response to it. And especially the song No Shelter, which is the song I wrote about rescue animals.
Yeah, I was listening to that and I was looking at my own rescue dog. It's very moving. It's very sweet, that journey. And I love that. And you also write about the OC, Orange County. Did you grow up there?
I did.
And you just talk about going back and what it was like.
That song is about divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to write a song and be like, and then they divorced. I'm going to write a song where I talk about growing up in Orange County and how wonderful and beautiful it is. But all this is happening. We're too busy watching the TV to see the storm waters rising. So that's the divorce part, you know. So I try, just like with my No Shelter, it's not a sad song. It's a hopeful song. It's basically somebody saying to this street dog that's out there, find me. Right. I'm here for you. And I listen to it all the time. And I have 3 rescue dogs and I have a rescue horse. I have a horse.
You have a rescue horse? Wow.
I do. And I have people that have said to me, like, I cannot listen to that whole song without crying in it. But it's hopeful. And there are a lot of rescue organizations that are using the song as part of their program for people wanting to adopt or for their own rescuers and stuff. The Pet Care Foundation has it on their website. I'm overwhelmed. I would like to get to the point where somebody decides to pay some money for it, and then I'm going to donate the money to rescues.
I love that. But it is one of those things in this day and age with technology, you can create something and just put it out there. But I think, maybe I'm projecting, but I think a lot of people, and myself included, I think sometimes think, well, what if no one cares? What if it's just a thud? What if there's nothing? But that has not been your experience. It sounds like you've been really surprised with great outreach. What do they send messages? Do they comment on Spotify? Like, how do you hear from people?
I don't even know how these people got my number. I get text from a woman. I'm in Utah right now, walking my 2 dogs, and I'm listening to your beautiful song. And I'm like, and it just had a phone number. Okay. And she sent me another one. I just sent your song to every single family member. And I don't want to say, who is this?
Lose my number. Yeah, a new phone. Who dis?
No. I'm sure it's someone I know. Yeah. Because I don't give out my number. But honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, Dennis. When I first started, everyone was like, you have to do Instagram and you have to have all these photos. And I did it, and it broke me. Like you said, like it broke me. And I went to my producer who was really pushing me, and I said, I'm not going to do that. I will do when the song posts, I will put a notice, hey, I have a new song, la, la, la. But I can't do it. It's breaking my heart. And if I don't like doing this, I'm not going to do it.
And I think people can tell when somebody's on social media because they feel like they have to be versus somebody that likes that forum, likes that medium, likes doing those kinds of things. I think you can feel it. It's like, I'm trying to sell a book, so I'm going to tell you this dumb story.
It's not logical to me because to get followers on Instagram, they tell you what you have to do is follow a bunch of people and hope they follow you back. Yeah. So it's not even real. None of that is real. Exactly. These people that have 10 million followers, do they come to your event? They come in here. They don't. They are passive. It's a passive medium. And I'm sorry, everybody, you can cancel me, whatever. But I love the fact that for my bingo business, everybody does it for me. They come and they take pictures and they post it. And it's a natural thing. So I do what I need to do, but I don't push myself to where it makes me mad. Yeah. And I'm much happier with one person sending me an email or one person sending me a text. Or I walk by a stall at the equestrian center and this woman, she's grooming her horse and she says 3 lines from one of my songs. She just says the lyrics. I'm like, oh my God, that to me, and the fact that right now we don't know, someone could be listening to one of my songs. I just love all that. Eventually I would love for them to be like chosen to be in a film or a TV show or something like that. But there's no way do I think I'm going to make money off of this. It's just this, Celine Dion documentary that came out. I'm watching that and I'm thinking, it's really horrible that she can't sing anymore, which now she can, obviously.
I know.
Which I'm so happy about.
Amazing.
But when I'm watching that, I'm like, but you can't ever take away all of her work.
Yeah.
It'll always exist, even if she can't do it now.
Yeah.
I'm no Celine Dion, but no matter what, I said to my niece, someday I'm not going to be able to sing these songs, and I'm probably not going to remember I wrote these songs, but they will exist.
They exist in the world, and they might mean something to people that you don't know.
I listened to Joni Mitchell 50 years later. I'm still listening to the same stuff and still getting the meaning of it. And again, so this is my little way of like, I'm happy because no matter what happens, they are there.
Was there a part of you that was like, is it too late to do this? Like, what was it that lit the fire that said, I'm just going to go for it?
I don't know that I don't think in terms of too late to do anything. I mean, I do realize, there's a song called Ready for the Bridge that I wrote, that what it's about is being at the 3/4 part of your life, meaning it's the bridge. In a song, it goes verse, verse, chorus, verse, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And I feel like I'm at the bridge where I've still got some time left.
You've still got an out chorus.
But at the same time, I cannot have to think so much about the past and what did I do wrong and all that stuff. It's where I am right now in my life is an amazing place to be. I've never been more calm and don't get me wrong. I'm not that way all the time, but I would say if somebody said has been the best part of your life, I would say right now is the best part of my life. So no, I never thought I did. Well, I just said to you, I said, I'm not leaving this earth.
You were determined to do it.
There is that thing.
I'm inspired by that. And I love the music. I like the vibe and the production and your voice. I recorded an album of music in the late 90s. It came out in 2000. I hadn't listened to it in a long time. I talked about this on the podcast. And I listened to it recently and I was like, wow. It had been so long that I was struck. I heard it differently. And I've been taking this jazz class for the last, 6 months. The other day, the teacher played one of my songs during a stretch. I didn't know he was going to do it. And I was there in class and it was playing. And I was like very touched and moved by it. And then he told me last week, he goes, me and one of the other dancers, we were going to choreograph a song to it. This is a 24-year-old song. Oh, and I was like, and they both talked to me like sincerely, like, and I was like, yeah, it struck a chord. It can strike a chord. And, it's really moving. And
it doesn't matter the length. I mean, you know what I mean? Like a Bob Dylan song now can still affect you as much as it did back then. And if someone would choreograph a song, a dance to one of my songs, you should be, oh my God. I'm jealous.
Well, we'll see. Yeah. It's very moving to me, but, it was something.
That's not some big social media bullshit.
No.
That's something that's personal to you in your life. And that's what it is. We're here in our lives. And the things we do affect the people in our lives. Yeah. And they come and they tell us, I love MisMatch game. I love bingo. I've been coming to bingo since I was 5. How old are you now? 30. Fuck you. That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
I understand time has passed and all of that, but, I'm not good at, like, if somebody said, hey, how long ago was that? I have no idea. I've never been. So,
are there couples that met at bingo? Fell in love?
Oh, yeah. They got married, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. They met at bingo and they got married.
They come and they're like, we just wanted to tell you, we met on our first date here at bingo and we are now married. And yeah, it happens all the time. It's a wonderful family that I don't even know I don't remember everybody.
Right.
I deal with so many people.
Of course.
And people come up to me and they tell me these stories and they're so detailed about the last time they were at bingo. And do you remember? And this happened. And I just honestly just go, oh my gosh, yeah. And I usually don't remember it. But the fact that they're telling it to me and the fact that it meant something to them means the world to me, that people have come to this ridiculous event where you win not really great prizes. And we just are calling numbers and saying stupid things. And it meant something to them. And, you know, I when I came to see MisMatch game, I felt like I was like at a real game show. I was like, you know, and by the way, that's the first time I've ever seen Jackie Beat in drag. Every single time I've seen Jackie Beat was out of drag. And I'm talking, I've seen her 10 times, but every time it's been as a guy.
So, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I know. So, but that was the best Dorothy Zbornak ever.
that withering glance is no joke. When I think back on MisMatch, there are a few moments that I will never forget. A lot of it is a blur. Are there moments from Legendary Bingo where it just, something was magic? Something magical happened?
I'm going to say yes, and I can't think of one right now, but absolutely. This is what I tell people. I have the best job in the whole world. Okay. I raise money for charity. I make people laugh. And at the end of my shift, people come up and say, you were great. Like, what kind of job is where you leave the shift at the end and people come up and go like, you were so great. So it's like, how can you know, it's a lot of work, and I'm running the entire business by myself because I lost my assistant, not from death, but, you know, when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So, it is a lot, but it is so rewarding that I would say, even if I start off a show and I go, who's ready to play bingo? And nobody says anything, I'm like, okay, I got some work to do. And I would be proud to say that I believe that every show we've ever done, by the time we were done, people were cohesive. Like, they weren't all these different tables. They all are this one, something that we do, and calling them out. And we just said, now, like, you haven't been there in a while. We go out into the audience and we let them pick a number, and we, you know, do all this stuff. And it makes them like they're one being. And at the end, people go up and talk to other tables and all that stuff. So that always, the personal part of it means a lot more to me than the we're famous for it part of it. It's really is about each show that you do. I want it to be the best show ever.
Well, a lot of the sort of sociologists talk about how we lack third spaces now in our culture. Like, there's home and work, and there used to be the bar or the sporting game, or the bowling league or whatever. But you give somebody a third space, and I think that's beautiful, especially the people that come over and over again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell people how they can learn more about both bingo and your music.
Well, bingo is that's a tough one because I have a website and it does give you information, but I don't, keep up on it.
Sure.
So I would say, okay, Instagram, or what do you call that thing on Instagram?
Hashtag, your title, your handle, Instagram handle.
Let's call it handle. Is Drag Queen Bingo, all one word.
Right on.
So I got that. Website is bingoboyinc.com. And for my music, all you have to do is search on any of the music services, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all that, is my name. And just, maybe put it somewhere I don't know, there's no screen. Okay. Jeffery Leonard Bowman, and it's Jeffery Leonard Bowman, and it will come up. And I would love people to listen to.
Well, I just added you to all my playlists, and it's just wonderful. I
love so cool.
Yeah, I'm really super into it. Oh, wait, here are my final questions. I worked on cruise ships as a dancer and also crew staff, and we called so much damn bingo. We would do it twice a day. People were so into it. It felt like the biggest part of my job, and I remember thinking, if I never call another bingo number as long as I live. Do you ever get sick of bingo?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes you do. It's human.
Well, you know what, Dennis? Excuse me. this is what I learned. You can't question it. If I stand up there and it's happened, and I say to myself, this is so ridiculous. All we're doing is calling these numbers. And sometimes if I really go too far, I'll look at a ball and it'll say G57. I'm like, does it really say G57? That doesn't make, it's like saying a word over and over.
You start to go a little nuts, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
This is what I want you to know. Before every show, I completely clear my head. And when I go up on that stage, I have no expectations. I don't think, okay, so I'm going to do this first. I'm going to do this second. I'm going to do that third. I mean, of course we have like tent poles,
Sure.
Hamburger berries, who's ready to play bingo? Da-da-da-da-da. Here's how you use your bingo cards. Here's how that. But everything else in between, we don't have it planned. So that's the only way I can do it is I literally have to empty my brain and just get out there. And by standing there in front of the audience, I figure out what it is I'm going to do. So, and that keeps it fresh.
I love that. Why do people love bingo? Is it just hard enough?
Isn't it weird? Because if you think about, so tomorrow night I have 200 people. Of those 200 people, 10 are going to win. So 190 people are going to go home without winning. And somehow we still have to make it fun for them.
Yeah.
Because why bother? I think it's that you almost always win. It's gambling. Like you almost, like
it's
you're
just
one.
This close. Interesting.
Yes, I'm one away. That's why we tell people when you're one away, yell, it's on. Because if you were there and I was there and I'm really close and then I hear you go, it's on. I go, fuck.
Yeah.
So there's an emotional, it's okay in the end if you don't win, but during it, it's pretty, you think I'm going to win. Right
on. Here's my final question. I'm sure growing up and you had different aspirations, I don't think you probably thought this was going to be what it is. Why does it make perfect sense now that you're living it? Or how do you feel about that this is your life?
I feel grateful. I do. I feel like I have no regret. Of course, when I was a little kid, I thought I was going to be the star of a TV show. I used to ride my bike along and I had theme music and everything. And like the cameras were on me and it was like, I'm riding my bike, my little Stingray,
Yeah.
And I, at one point tried acting, I was in a movie called Orgasmo that
I remember that movie.
Yeah, I was the porn star shaving his balls in Orgasmo.
Thank you. That might be the title of this podcast, even though it has nothing to do with bingo. But I like a punchy title.
I shared a dressing room with Ron Jeremy, and there would be times when I'd run into him at some event, and he always said, "Hey, it's the ball shaver." So that was fun. But I tried all different things like that as far as performance stuff.
Yeah.
And it never really stuck. I stopped auditioning for commercials because it just made me mad. They made you wait 45 minutes to an hour, and I would leave a lot of times. And my agent would be like, "Well, you can't leave." And I'm like, "They should be on time. I'm sorry. I might have the ego for that." So doing this checks a lot of boxes for me because I get that performance thing going, but I also run a business, and I like being I've always been a business person, artist.
Right.
I always have to two sides of my brain. So I would say that I never in a million trillion years would have thought this is what I would do. But I'm going to be honest with you. You know how kids say when I was a kid, I wanted to be this or that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I don't remember ever wanting to be anything except what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do tomorrow? And I never have had a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
I always took the creative route and I always got shit for it from my family. I remember my father saying to me, "You can't just do whatever you want." And I'm like, "Why not?" And so I have lived this life and I have been so poor, that I don't even want to tell you how poor I've been, but I have been so poor because I insisted that the creative route was for me.
Yeah.
And same time,
I talk about this all the time on the podcast. I never saw the other road.
No, there is no other road. It's just like gay, straight, whatever. I didn't choose this. It was it was maybe because of my, messed up family. Sorry. But, there's never been anything else. I've always just thought that somehow I'm going to express myself or whatever. So I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that what I do was somehow meant to be. And it's offered me so many wonderful opportunities, and the people that I've got to meet. Like I said, I have, I've been able to sit and talk with Florence Henderson. Okay. Right. And all of it, and that's back when we were at Dupar's, we used to be able to we had Rosemary and Lonnie Anderson and, all these great people, Dick Van Patten, all these great people from back then. And we can't anymore because the audience is too young and they don't know who they are.
Right.
So, but I've had the opportunity, all the people that when I was growing up that I watched their shows and all, I've been able to meet them and have a bonding moment with them. I'm not saying we're friends.
Right.
But I have lived this Nick at Night life and I really appreciate it. And, I am sitting here right now, I'm stable. I live in a pretty nice house. And, you know what I mean? And my business is still 26 years later, still going strong. So I am grateful beyond anything.
I love that. Well, and you've helped a lot of other people too through all the charity opportunities that people have gotten through Bingo. So amazing. Jeffery, I've loved this conversation. Thank you for doing the podcast. And people should go to Bingo and go check out your music on Spotify or any of the streaming sites. It's wonderful.
Well, I want to thank you. This is the very first podcast I've ever been on.
Oh, wow. I love it.
I was so nervous.
You crushed it. It was crushed.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. This has been really fun. Thanks again to Jeffery Bowman. You can learn more about him at bingoboyinc.com. Also, his music is available on the streaming platforms. Jeffery Leonard Bowman. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. All right, so this happened. Recently, I've been going to a few older movies in different revival houses. My favorite new one in Los Angeles is called Vidiots. So a few weeks ago, they were showing the movie Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. And I remember seeing it in college. And I must have been a freshman or sophomore. So 18, 19 years old, small town boy from a small town in Arizona. I end up at Arizona State. And I think I go to see it because Cher's in it or something, or I've been reading it. I'm starting to find my taste in things in the world. And so I go to see it at Los Arcos Mall. And I am so knocked out and swept up by this movie that I go back to see it the very next night. I think I drag a friend. I become sort of obsessed with this movie, this story about these women in this small Texas town with Sandy Dennis and Karen Black plays a transsexual. Cher is in it and Kathy Bates. Just everybody's good. Robert Altman adapted this play and it's all set in one set, but he does this stuff with mirrors, so it's incredibly cinematic, even though it does kind of have its play trappings, of course, but just the shots and everything. Anyway, I got so obsessed with it back in the day. And I remember also when it came out on VHS, making sure I had a copy and then showing it to all my friends back in my hometown. I mean, we would have been 20. And I'm like, I'm the gay guy. I hadn't had sex yet. I hadn't even really come out to myself yet, but I was obsessed with Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean. And I made everybody watch it in my town. And I think they were head scratching. I don't know. But anyway, I got to go see it again. And guess what? It holds up. It's so good. It's so good. Sandy Dennis, man. What an actor. And Cher was great in it. It's very moving. Just lovely. And I was watching it. I was like, they need to do a stage revival of this. Cast a real trans actor as that character, the Karen Black character. And I think it could be fabulous. So if anyone out there is a theater producer, make that happen. The other thing that I saw at Vidiots is Julie Brown, who does the MisMatch game. We all know from Medusa and Earth Girls Are Easy is the movie that we saw. So that was showing at Vidiots. And I went to see it. She was doing a Q&A. So a bunch of us that know her and love her went to see it together. And I realized as I was watching it, I'd never seen this movie before. I think I thought I had because I knew the song and I think I'd seen some of the videos. First of all, it's a full-on musical with song and dance numbers. She does Cause I'm a Blonde on a Beach. And it's just delightful. And then there's these three aliens that crash land in Gina Davis' swimming pool. And then they shave them. Julie gives them a makeover, and they end up all being really hot. And Jim Carrey's one of the aliens. And this was like 1988, maybe 89, something in there. But I remember when Ace Ventura came out, people were acting like that was his first big movie. No, he was in Earth Girls Are Easy, and he's really hilarious and cute in it. And also, I've been sleeping on Jeff Goldblum's hunkiness. He's so hot in this movie. He was so hot. I was like, wow, I get it now. But Julie did a Q&A before the movie and talked about how it came to be and how, there was a studio head, I think it was Amy Pascal, I could be wrong about that just loved her music and her records that were on out on the radio and stuff. And this movie idea came and Julie pitched it, but they wanted a big star to be in it, so Gina Davis ended up in it. But Julie ended up in this really fun supporting role and steals every scene that she's in. And she just had fun anecdotes about it, and she's so gracious and funny. And of all the famous people that I know, I think she's the nicest. There, I said it. She's just nice and real, and it's been a pleasure having her in the MisMatch game. And so I was happy to see the movie on the big screen for the first time with all these people there that clearly love her, and it was just a great night. So there you go. Vidiots is bringing me delights, and not just Magic Mike XXL. So, all right, that's enough for this week. I want to thank Jeffrey again for doing the podcast. I want to give a shout-out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We will catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye!